what's up guys, back with a video. And I know it's been a while, we've been kind of occupied with TikToks lately, but today we got a couple Recon accessories. So this is a smoked third brake light, and these are some of the smoked LED mirror lights. So we're gonna go ahead and do an install for both of them in one video. The third brake light shouldn't be too long at all, that's why I figured we'd just do them in the same video. But the mirror lights are gonna be a little bit more tedious. I've been told that these are quite fragile, so when we pop these mirrors off, hopefully we don't crack anything. So we'll start off with the third brake light and show you guys the process of putting that one in, and we'll go from there. All right, so these bolts up here, there's 4 bolts. You can either use a flathead, hex, or a Torx. I'm gonna go ahead and use a Torx 20 to get these 4 bolts out, and then be kind of gentle with it because you don't need to have too much torque on them, so just be careful. All right, so we got the 4 bolts out. We're just gonna wiggle it and be careful to pull it out. There should be some wires connected because of the camera and the lights, so just be cautious. All right, so we got it out, and these are the wires that I was talking about. So you're just gonna wanna release these. They're on quick disconnects, and make sure you don't drop this harness back inside the cab. Okay, so now that we've got the OEM third brake light off, you're gonna see that there's a camera if you have the bed light camera set up. So you're gonna wanna remove this camera so we can install in the new one. And all it is 2 tiny Torx heads right in here. There should be a Torx 10. More than likely, it's just the smallest Torx you have in your set. So just go ahead and pull that off, and then the camera should just pop right out the front. All right, so we got everything removed from the original third brake light. Now here's the Recon smoked one. So we're just gonna basically reverse the same steps that we just showed before and put the camera back inside of here before we mount the whole third brake light back to the cab. All right, so we got the bed camera installed into the new third brake light. We're gonna go ahead and attach the 2 plugs from the cab harness and just get the bolts bolted right back into where they were. Make sure you hear it click so that everything's fully seated. Okay, so everything is seated nice and tight. We're gonna go ahead and run these bolts right back where they were and make sure the seal is good so no water gets inside. Okay, so now that we hand tighten these bolts, you're gonna wanna give it a little bit more torque. That way these foam seal around the cab will completely seat. You don't want this big gap between the light and the cab, otherwise you might get a water leak inside there. So you wanna make sure everything's sealed off and flush with the cab. Do 1 bolt at a time, that way you're not overstressing one side more than the other. Kind of like if you were putting on wheels. So now you can see this gap is getting tighter and tighter the more I cinch this down.
I wouldn't tighten it too tight. I tightened mine a little tight, and I heard like get that kind of shit. Yeah.
I've got the hand torque. Oh yeah, that's 10 Newton meter. All right, so I think it looks pretty good. The hardest part of that install was just to be careful whenever you're tightening those bolts down to not crack the plastic. But now we're gonna move on to the mirror lights, and we'll see how difficult that is. All right, so this is the real tricky part of this entire install, is popping off these mirrors. You gotta be careful with them because if you flex them at all, they crack apparently. So I watched another YouTuber, Colt's Way, he said to pull from the top out and be pretty gentle with them, and they should just pop right out. They're like little snaps. So we're gonna try to do that, and hopefully they don't break. Okay, so we popped half of it off, didn't break it. So I guess just work your fingers back there and just try to get the rest out. beast. Okay. We got this one off. These are the snaps that I was talking about. They kind of pop around this thing. So just work it around and be careful of these little wires right here. You don't want to damage those terminals. Okay, so we got the bottom one off. So now we're gonna work on the big one. I think what I'm gonna do is move the mirror all the way to the top corner and then try to pry it out. All right, so once again, we're gonna take advice from Colt's Way on YouTube. He recommends taking a smaller flathead, and there's a little groove in there where you can snap it by basically just twisting 90 degrees on the flathead. That way you're not actually bending the mirror itself. So he's got a good video on that. If you wanna watch his video, you can check it out more in depth, but I'm just gonna try to get it off right now. It's popping, but it's just popping right back on. There we go.
It feels like it breaks when you pop it loose, but it doesn't break.
Now how am I gonna get the rest of it? With my finger?
Put your hand behind it and put your hand on top of it and wiggle it off.
Try it.
That's what I did. Put pressure on the front. I wouldn't do it like that. I wouldn't do it like that. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, cool. So far so good. Got this off. Just be patient with it and work it carefully. Whatever you do, just don't bend the mirror itself. Keep it as one solid piece the best you can. All right, so there's 5 7mm bolts on here. We're gonna go ahead and pull these out. Make sure you have an extender on it because they're kind of deep inside of the mirror housing. All right, so we got the mirror cap off, and now as you can see, the light is kind of dangling. Be careful of the floodlight. Whenever you take the cap off, you maybe have a friend help you disconnect this floodlight. That way you don't rip those wires out. So then over here, you're gonna just wiggle this harness back, and then there's just one quick disconnect on this mirror light. So you're gonna want to pull that little gray pin and then just wiggle the whole harness out. All right, so here's the OEM ones, and here are the Recon ones. So make sure you grab the one that's for the right side. So we're gonna go ahead and just install it the way we just basically uninstalled it. And I'm gonna pull this plastic off as well. Okay. So we have this piece, everything's kind of just sitting there right now. You're gonna go ahead and put the floodlight, oh hell. Put the floodlight wire through that hole and then connect the floodlight and then snap this whole housing back on. Burr, will you plug this for me? We got everything aligned. This is connected and it'll just snap in at the very end. But you wanna make sure that the lip from the switchback mirror light goes underneath the groove here and then just snap everything together. You'll see it seat together. Okay, we're all in. Make sure you go around the bottom too and double check that everything's snapped in. And then we'll run the bolts back through the same way we took them out. All right, so now we're gonna just put the mirrors back on the same way we took them off. Just be very gentle with it and make sure you plug everything back in. Yeah, just be careful, I'm nervous. All right, so we kind of got ahead of ourselves and we just popped this top one back on. It's pretty simple, just put your palm and disperse the force and just let it pop right in. Once it pops, don't put any more pressure. Gonna do the same thing to the bottom one. And then we're not gonna film the other side because it's getting dark, so we're gonna try to get through quickly. But we will show you this side versus that side before we install the other one. Okay, so you can see the difference. I'm gonna throw the hazards on now. So the new ones have a little sequential to it, and the other ones just kind of stay amber. So I don't know how well it's coming up on the camera, but they definitely look a lot cleaner with the black and the sequential. All right guys, so I know it's a little bit dark right now, but I'm gonna show you all what the front end looks like. We finally finished installing both of the mirror lights, and also obviously the third brake light is finished too. So I'm gonna start the truck up, that way you can see the front end. In the next video, we're gonna be installing a LED light up Ford badge too, so the front end's not quite complete, but it's getting there. So make sure you guys stay tuned for the next video as well, but here's the front end as of now. Alright, so I'm not sure if that's blinding the camera or not, but that pretty much wraps up this video. It's getting dark, so we're going to put the tools away, but make sure you guys follow me on Instagram, RNM3 right over here. I'll put it somewhere on the screen, that way y'all can follow me, and be sure to stay tuned for the next video, because we're going to do that paint match light up Ford emblem, and I think it's going to look really sweet. So thanks for watching, I appreciate you guys, and see you in the next video.